If you are seeing this type of finish on your printings, that's called stringing. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to explain you on this video everything from the beginning, from the real bottom, how to fix that issue.
I kindly request you to watch this video patiently and respectfully. You are about to listen multiple English mistakes, thousands of ums, ems, hms, in a fairly sketchy environment. But at the end, this video is brought to you with love and with the desire to help you. Enjoy it, like it, comment, subscribe, or I will sue you. Haha.
Now, I'm really sorry if you are an advanced 3D printer wizard, but I'm going to go from the bottom. So I'll show you how to configure your printer properly, not your printer, but the slicer, to allow your printer to work properly with your filament. That means I'm going to show you how to install and configure Cura, which is the slicer that will help me to configure your settings on your slicer. However, I will use Priter slicer to do my the real printings. Cura, it's only going to be used to create a couple of tests that will help you to really fine tune your filaments. There's a lot of caveats here because every single filament will be different. Every single filament will behave differently. However, I use pretty much always I use the same settings depending on what I'm going to print. It really doesn't, in 95% of the cases, it really doesn't matter what filament I'm using. In this case, I'm just going to talk about PLA. I'm not talking about ABS or ASA or resin printings. I'm just going to talk about PLA with, in this case, of course, it's a 3D and FDM printing technique or technology. So I've got a list of things here I'll be talking about on this video. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll show you how to download and install Cura. If you don't know how to do it, just follow me. If not, you can just jump over on the timestamps that are in the description of the video. So I'll show you how to install Cura and how to set it up. So from Google, from whatever you want, you just type download Cura. Go to the Ultimaker option, and from here you just hit download for free. If you're Windows or a Mac, I'm Windows, so you just download the Windows 64.exe application. Cool. Once downloaded, just open it and install it as any other application and run it. Can close this. Just click get started, agree. It doesn't matter if you sell your soul to the devil, but who cares? Next, you can just skip this option. Whoops, sorry. And non-Ultimaker printer. Note, I'm using the standard 3D printer from Elegoo, which is the Neptune 3. I'm not using any Priter printer or Creality or Ender or Bamboo, any other brand. I'm just using the Elegoo 3, the Neptune 3, the standard one, which means this printer is the extruder and the hot end, they are connected using a Bowden tube. So the settings I'm going to talk about here, something that I had to say in the beginning, but the settings I'm going to talk about here is for this type of printer, sorry. So because the Bowden tube and the direct drive printers, they are totally different. They behave a little bit different, honestly. The only big difference is the retraction settings, okay? In this case, you will see only for the Neptune, for Bowden tube printers, okay? So I'm going to select non-Ultimaker printers and hit add a non-network printer. I'm just going to search for Elegoo and Elegoo Neptune 3. So Elegoo has Neptune 3, 3 Max, 3 Plus, and 3 Pro. I've got the standard one, which is at 235 but 235 millimeters width, plus at 280 height max. That's the maximum. Just click next. This is for you to, let's say, import the profile of the printer. So Cura and all these slicers, they create profiles for every single printer, like standard configurations about retraction settings, speed, accelerations, bed and extruder temperatures, and that stuff. So just click skip and then click finish. So what I like to do here, the first thing is in the options here, I really like to change the printer settings options to the advanced options. I don't really remember how to do this because the last time I did was, there you go. So you just click custom and then you have everything. And then here you can click expert, or you can click all. I'm just gonna click all. It doesn't mean you need to use and change all of this stuff. I'll show you just the real pieces you need to change. Quick note, there's gonna be a lot of probably tests that will fail because I don't know why that happens, but you have to tweak something else for that for the tests to work, like Z-hop, which is I'll show you in a minute. So so you have everything there. You have all the settings there. Quick note, I'm going to use a completely brand new unboxed filament. This is one from, well, the brand is Techcore. If you Google it, I think you will not see it, but this one is from Inkstation. I'm in Australia, and I really good shout out to Inkstation because their filaments are great. Their support is great as well. I have bought, I don't know, hundreds of them, and I've had few issues with filaments, and when I have issues with the filaments, I contact them and they have either asked me to send the filament back to them with no cost at all, and they give me credit to buy another filament in change. So this one is a PLA Rainbow filament. It's a multicolor filament, and it's not silk, so it's not shiny finish. It's totally closed. It's enclosed in the back because I'm going to test this one from scratch for you. If you have a filament that is already sitting somewhere on a bench or anything, we are going to have some issues with these settings because these filaments, this type of material absorbs water, so it gets humid, so that moisture just screws up the filament. Okay, so just so you know, we're starting from scratch with a really good, probably dry filament. We'll see. I'm pretty sure it's dry. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the temperature tower. The temperature tower, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to find the best temperature for your filament in terms of where it melts, at what temperature it melts, and how fast it dries. And I will show you what I'm talking about in the screen. So let's talk about how to create the temperature tower that will allow us to find the best temperature for this filament, specifically for this roll, okay? In general, I use 200 degrees. Sometimes I go down to 195 and sometimes I go over 200 up to 210. When do I go low? When do I go high? I go higher when it's winter and I go lower when it's summer. Go to the top right corner, click Marketplace, and then you can type calibration, or you can type, but it's going to show that option on the top option. Before it was called something like calibration shapes or something like that. But now they have this auto tower generator, so you just install it. So accept. It says uninstall and it says quit Ultimaker Cura, so you just quit it and then reopen it. It has changed. Last time I used it was 1.5 years ago. So, okay, here you go to extensions and auto towers, but on post-processing you will see something else. I think you'll see something else. And the first thing we're going to work with is the temp tower. So you just click it and it's showing you. Now, I need to tell you, I'm going a little bit blind here because the settings, everything has changed a lot. I may understand what's going to happen next, but it changed a little bit. So I'm not going to pretend I know everything. It's better if you see me this natural instead of watching a video that is cut off every 2 seconds, okay? So just follow me and I'll explain you. So the PLA and PLA Plus, they are two different, they're the same PLA filament, but the PLA Plus has something like it's better. Both print the same. This one is a PLA, normal PLA. And I'm gonna show you what's the difference between the temperature tower PLA and the PLA Plus. So the PLA one, let's add it. Do you see this number at the bottom? It says 220. That means the printer will print this, let's call it bridge, because it's going to print this bridge at 220 degrees. Only if we tell him, okay? And I'll show you how to do it. So it starts on 220, it finishes the bridge, and then the next bridge on top of it, it will print it on 215. If you don't know how to use Cura, to pan from left to right, up and down, you hold the scroll button. So you have the scroll wheel, you click it and then click hold and drag everywhere. If you want to zoom in, zoom out, you just scroll up, scroll down. If you want to move around, like turn the camera around, you right click, hold and move, okay? And left click is normal select. So anyways, bridge first, the first bridge 220, second bridge 215, we can go, it goes up to 180. I really, if I forget the printer is printing, I just leave it to finish. But if I am looking at the printer and waiting for the printer to finish, I would stop this at 190, because lower than 190, the filament in the hot end is not that hot. I mean, it's not hot enough. So 190, you will see the range difference between 190 and 220. Now, this is the tower for the PLA. Let's add the PLA plus. So you go extensions, outer towers, temp tower, and then select PLA plus. OK. PLA plus, since it behaves differently, it goes from 230 up to 200. So what it's telling you is that those are the good temperatures for that type of filament. Same thing, I have used both PLA and PLA plus at 200, between 195 and 205. It really, again, it depends on how hot or how cold is the weather where you are at the moment. So you will see that if you print with 200, that's a really sweet spot to be printing. I'll change this back to temp tower PLA because that's the one I'm going to use. Oh, this is annoying. So after reading a little bit more about this, I found this description that says allows you to quickly and easily print several types of calibration towers without messing around with G-code or post-processing. This means you don't need to change anything else, which is concerning because you before, unless they just made it super smart, you had to set the layer where the tower would start changing the temperature. Before, I would be changing between 35 and 40 in the number of the layers. So like layer number 1 is the one that the blue one you see here. So how did I get to this point? Cura has the option to auto slice the model, or you can slice it manually. What happens is that if you move the model and you leave it, you see here on the bottom, just gonna move my head away from there. You see here it says slice. So slice, sorry. So you click slice, then you can go to the preview option on the top bar, and then you will see these things. So if you go to the bottom, that's the first layer. So first 1, 2, 3, anyways. So if you go up, I would tell the printer, change the temperature from 220 to 215, so reduce 5 degrees at layer 43. But I want to check the second bridge. The second bridge, if the first bridge is 43, the second bridge would be 86. So if I go to 86, it's accurate. Now I'm just going to go one bridge more, so 86 plus 43, 129. So if I go to 129, what I'm looking for is the first layer after the bridge. So the first layer after the bridge changes, in this case, it changes at 128, but 43 plus 43 plus 43, it's 129. So that's where I would tweak a little bit. But anyways, so apparently this is doing all the post-processing for me. So I don't need to tell this model change from 220 to 215 at layer 43 and check everything that I just showed you. What is going to happen is at some point, either in the highest or in the lowest temperatures, you will see filament hanging around, like a lot of stringing, or probably bridges broken, a lot of things. But what will happen with this temperature test, it'll show you what is the good temperature for this filament to create the bridges. Okay, so I'm going to save this on my micro SD card, and I will send it to print, and I'll show you how it comes. So I'm here on my printer. The first recommendation I would do is clean your bed of the printer, of course, with isopropyl alcohol, just to clean any like grease or dust that will create issues on any printing to stick to the bed. So I'll clean the bed first. The second thing I really love to do is with my tweezers, the ones that come with, not the tweezers, how you call these ones, the flash cutters. I really like to clean the nozzle here. Just really gently, I clean the excess of filament that comes out of it before every single print, because if you leave filament hanging here and that filament is dry, that will cause the level of the printer to fail. Okay, so don't forget that. And so I already have my micro SD card in the printer, and what I'm going to do is I will just start the leveling first, and then, sorry for the mess down there, and then after the leveling I will print the model, and I'll show you in a minute how that goes. And I'm printing something else here. I have a huge mess here, but this is my printing studio. I will clean it someday, soon.
3 weeks later.
Just showing you what is printing, and that is the bridge. So what it's doing is printing filament in the air, and it's drying it. My phone doesn't have a very good resolution, but it doesn't matter. I think you saw it, but right now it's printing at 190 degrees. You can see it here, 190 degrees. I'm just gonna stop it and I'll swing back to the computer and we'll talk about that tower. So back at the computer, I've got this printed, and as I said, I printed this one up to 190 degrees. And I'll show you what are the key points, what are the determining factors to choose the correct temperature for this, only for that filament, which is kind of a generic rule, okay? You'll see. So just gonna get this pen. So as you can see, just gonna switch the light on here. Cool. So as you can see, well, this is 220 degrees. Of course, 220 degrees is too hot, okay? So you don't want to go with 220. You don't want to go with 215 because still this means it's too hot. It's really, really hot and it's overheating the filament, okay? Now, what about 210? 210 degrees, it's a good spot to begin with, but things that you have to keep in mind that will tell you this is still too hot for the filament. Do you see these blobs? Oop, where is it? Here. These ones? So this means it's too hot still. Now, if we see under the bridge, these bits of filament that are hanging, that means it's too hot and the fans are not cooling fast enough the filament that is being printed in the air. Okay, so okay, 210, we're getting closer. Plus you have here in the middle these artifacts that they won't really look good on your printings. 205, this one still has the same issue of those artifacts, those little pieces of plastic, less than 210, okay? They're not too visible. And the bridge, if you compare this part of the bridge with this part of the bridge, this one looks a lot better, but still it's not in the best spot. Now, let's talk about 200 degrees. These artifacts, these ones, they are pretty much gone, okay? 210, 205, 200. The bridge, still you have those little lines, which I think you can live with those ones. I would live with those ones. 200 for me is the best, is the sweet spot for all the filaments. But for this new roll of filament, the best temperature is 195. So as you can see, there is no artifacts in here as they were in 205, in 2010. There are no artifacts at all here as they were on 200, 205, 210 and higher. And I wouldn't go to 190 because that's too low. Really, that's going the other way. So you don't need to be too hot or too cold, okay? So for this one, I would go with 195. Now, let's talk about the second step that I've got in my list. So as you saw, the stringing, that is caused, as I said, first because of a temperature issue or a retraction issue. You have to keep in mind you have to make a retraction every time the hot end travels from one side to another side of the model. Say, I don't know, you're printing two objects at the same time and there is a space in between and you have to move the hot end from one object because it printed the layer and then it needs to go to the other side to print the other layer. During that moment, you need to pull out a certain number of millimeters. You have to pull out the filament called retraction. You have to retract the filament and then travel to the other side. Here, what we have to do is create a retraction tower. So what I'm going to do is I will delete that, go back to extensions, auto tower, and you have this retraction tower. I have never used bed level pattern, fan tower, flow tower, speed tower. I have always used retraction and temperature tower. So retraction tower, this is going to be interesting because this is the first time, as I said, this is the first time I see this. When it's Bowden printers, you have to play between 1 and up to 7 millimeters. If you go over 7 millimeters, then you're going to have issues with the filament coming out of the, let me just pull this back a little bit. If you pull out too much the filament will get hot, and when it's pushed back into the nozzle, it's too cold and it's not going to heat up fast enough, and then you're gonna have under extrusion issues. So if it's Bowden, you have to go between 1 and up to 7 millimeters of retraction. When it's direct drive, you go like up to 1 millimeter because it's great. I honestly really like direct driver printers, but all my 3 printers, I bought them 3 years ago, and they are all Neptune 3D, the Neptune 3, sorry, the standard printer. So in this case, as I said, I'll go up to 6. I wouldn't go with the 4 to 9 millimeters. These numbers are millimeters, so 0.4 to 1.2 millimeters if you are on a direct drive printer. In my case, I'll test the 1 to 6. You just select that and click OK. The rest of the options, I think they're not required, honestly. So what is going to happen is you need to set up a few things here. So just gonna bring this one back down. First thing is it's going to print. You see the numbers here on the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4 on each square. This one means, okay, every time the extruder, as I said, needs to travel from one side of the printing to the other side of the printing, it's going to retract how much? 1 millimeter only on that square, on that area. The second one, it's 2 millimeters, then it's 3 millimeters, then it's up to 6. It'll show you pretty much the same pattern that we have here, like a lot of stringing, less stringing, and there's gonna be a sweet spot where you will not see any stringing. Now, you might have the problem of having all the 6 levels with stringing, but number 6 is pretty, like, really clean, pretty much clean, but you still see some strings coming out of it. What I would recommend you is, okay, you print the 1 to 6, and if it still is showing the stringing, go to the next level, which is you add another retraction tower, but you add the next one, which is 4 to 9 millimeters. So it's going to show you 6, okay, 4, 5, 6 again, but it's going to show you 7, 8, and 9 millimeters of retraction. If you see 7 millimeters retraction is good, make a little tweak. Go down to 190 degrees and test again the 1 to 6. So we're gonna go step by step. Select the 1 to 6 millimeters. Okay. Now we already said that 195 degrees is the sweet spot of temperature for this filament. Where do you set up the temperature for this one? You go here on material, and here printing temperature, printing temperature is 195. That's the general printing temperature. The initial layer, which is the second option, printing temperature initial layer, 195 degrees. It's a little bit redundant, honestly, but I don't know why they have all these options. Just follow me. Initial printing temperature, 195. Final printing temperature, 195. If you set like 205, 195, it's going to reduce step by step during the whole during the whole printing is going to reduce the temperature from 205 to 195. So make sure all the four are 195. That's the first step. Set the temperature to the temperature that you found here. Second step, and this is something I didn't tell you, but you also need to have a good bed adhesion. Okay, so 70 degrees is way too high. If you go with 60 degrees, always it won't fail. If the printing, whatever you're printing, comes off the bed, there could be a lot of reasons, but always set up to 60. 70 is, as I said, it's too much, honestly. So that's the second thing you have to set up. The third thing that you would set up here, just to make sure the printing goes okay, I would say travel. So let me check the speed. Speed is okay. Printing speed of 60 millimeters per second is like the normal speed. You can go higher or lower, but in this case we're just fine-tuning the filament. So go to travel, and here on travel you will see, okay, enable retraction. I am enabling the retraction of the filament, which is already on the G-code. The G-code is all the lines that will be used on this model to print. Okay, and it'll say retract at layer change. This is something you need to set up if you don't want to screw up your printings. But the thing that I want to activate is Z-hop when retracted. Why? Because if you have, let's talk about layer 45. If you are traveling from the layer 45, from this part of the model, like from, just gonna put myself here. So if you're going to travel from this part on layer 45 to this part on layer 44, what I would do, and I really recommend you to set up the Z-hop every single time. So the nozzle will print the layer 45 on one side, and then it will retract the filament, go up a few millimeters, and I'll show you how to set up that. It'll go a few millimeters up, then it will travel to the other part of the printing, and then it will raise down, it will go down. So that will allow the printer to avoid hitting on the other parts of the printings. So I've had so many issues with the Z-hop not being activated with hours printing. When the model is too high, it becomes wobble. So it wobbles, sorry. So when it travels, it hits the model and it just kicks the model off the bed. So you activate the Z-hop when retracted, and then you select the Z-hop height. You can go as many millimeters you want. How many millimeters would I go with? 2. 2 millimeters is enough distance for the printer to avoid while traveling, while going to the other part of the printing. 2 millimeters is perfect. I even use 0.5 on my Cura slicer. I use 0.5. That's more than enough. You can do 2, then probably go down to 1, and then find that 1 is okay, and then you can go down to 0.5 and then find that 0.5 is perfect. The other thing of reducing the Z-hop height is time. So every time the nozzle goes up, travels, goes down, it consumes time. So it's probably that will consume 1, 2, 3 minutes in a 6 hours printing. But think about the parts of the printing, okay, the printer, sorry. So going up and down, up and down, up and down, the Z rod that is behind the printer, it's going up and down, and that like you really have to take care of those rods. So the less you use, the less distance you make the printer to raise, to go up and down, the better. So 2 millimeters is good enough. I would say this option, no, don't activate this one, because I think I have had problems with this one activated. Just leave it like that. There's nothing else to check here. Build plate adhesion. Well, we could probably talk about this later. If you need, just leave a comment here on the video and let me know if you want to know more about the slicer, or if you want something like specific, if you want me to make a video solving a specific issue. More than happy to do it. So that's it. I think we're good to go. I'll grab my micro SD card and then put this into it, and I'll be back in, you click slice first, and it's telling me 34 minutes. So I'll be back in 36.
6.5 hours later.
Okay, so it finished. It's here. So I'll show you what happened, because as I said, you might get surprised with the results of this test, and this will tell you a bit more. So here it is. Where is it? Here. So as I said, you might have the bottom retraction, let's say floor 1 millimeter. It's not enough. Okay, so 1 millimeter is not enough. 2 millimeters, it's a little bit better. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So as you can see, there is stringing every single layer. So what this is telling me is that it doesn't matter if you go from 2 or 6 or higher. I wouldn't go any higher than 6, honestly, but it's telling you that if you go from 2 or 3 or 6, it will not make any difference. However, I found that in PLA, with like when printing PLA, honestly, the best retraction settings is either 5 or 6. Higher is just too much. You can give it a go. In this case, I can give it a go with 4, for example, and make a small test. Like don't print a huge full bed print model. So just go with something small where you can test the retraction settings and the temperature tower settings. Yeah, just try number 4 or 5 or 6. Well, that's it. So basically, you just need to keep in mind both things, the temperature tower and the retraction tower, so that you can find the best settings for your printing. In this case, for this filament, if I go with 195 in temperature, 195 degrees in temperature, and a retraction of, say, 4, I would be in a really good place. There is still a little bit of stringing. It has to happen. However, there is one additional option that I was going to mention, and it is wipe options. What that wiping thing means is that when it's printing and it's going to change and it's going to jump from one side to the other side of the model, it will retract the filament and then it'll print on the same area, the same pattern, just to wipe out the rest of the filament that is hanging from the nozzle. I'm not sure, honestly, on Cura, I'm not sure if you can see that option. Okay, so from Cura, you can, on the top right corner, you have that search bar. You can click that and type wipe, for example. And it's showing you so whether to include nozzle wipe G code between layers, maximum 1 per layer, enabling this setting. Well, this is not the one. Probably distance of a travel move inserted after the outer wall to hide the Z seam better. You have to give it a go if you're going to use Cura. But let me open Prusia. Where is it? I have a problem with Cura Slice 2.9, so I'm going to open the version 2.8.1. Here, I'm just gonna type wipe while retracting. I think it's this one. No, the other one. This one. So in Prusia, it allows you to wipe while retracting. And again, what it does is it retracts 4, 5, 6 millimeters. And in my settings, I have 6 millimeters of retraction length, 6 millimeters. The retraction speed, 75 millimeters per second. The retraction speed, which is just push the filament back in, 45 millimeters. The minimal travel retraction, which is like if the nozzle doesn't travel more than 2 millimeters, don't retract. It's not needed from what the system says. I haven't touched that one, that's by default. But it says wipe while retracting. So it retracts, and the wipe, and I'm going to show you what that wipe means. So you see here the movement of the nozzle, okay? So the red is what is being printed. So it goes around, and when it hits the end, it moves on the same pattern once, probably half of the circle in this case, half of the circle, but during this movement it retracts the filament, wipes, which is cleaning the rest of the filament that is coming out of the nozzle because it's hot, and then it just do whatever it has to do. So I don't know, it goes up 2 millimeters, travels 10 millimeters, and keeps printing. That movement is going to help a lot when we're working on with this issue, because these little hairs of filament, the stringing, I'm 100% sure will be removed in 90% of the cases with that wipe option. So my recommendations: one, keep your filament dry as much as possible. Here is a photo of the box I'm using and the filaments, and you see I have all the desiccant little bags there. We are in Australia in summer, and usually Australia is humid, but it doesn't matter where you are, there's humidity, and these filaments are like sponges. So just keep them in either in bags with the desiccant bags, or put them in those boxes, in these type of boxes I'm showing you. I think that's it. I hope you can just, if you get down to this point of the video, I hope I resolved a few questions that you may have about 3D printing and why you are having that stringing, and probably this will help you to find more options and solutions that you didn't have for another models that you have had issues before. So anyways, share this video. If you want to leave a like and comment, perfect, that's okay. I'm not here for likes and not for likes and subscribers. I'm here for comments and resolve solutions. So there you go. Thank you for watching. Take care.